Welcome to a special episode of the G5 Hive, and boy, we have something exciting for you all today. We have a very special guest joining us. He hails from Bessemer City High School in Bessemer, Alabama. Last season at Miles College, he recorded 53 tackles, 18 and a half tackles for loss, 11 quarterback hits, and 8 sacks. When we spoke with Steve Irvine from the Birmingham Banner, he tabbed our guest as his defensive breakout player in 2025. He stands in at 6 foot 2 inches tall, weighs in at 250 pounds. He wears number 15 for the UAB Blazers. He is Jamichael Rogers.
How you
Welcome to the
doing,
show,
man?
Jamichael.
How you doing, man?
Glad to have you. Welcome on.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. This is a blessing, man.
Well, let's start like where your football journey kind of all started. Like, who introduced you? Who got you interested in the game of football?
I say my father, he got me introduced, just growing up watching him play, man. It was just crazy to hear all the stories that people would tell me about him and what he could do on that field. So I just say my father, he introduced me to that.
When you were growing up, did you play any other sports?
Nah, I didn't play any other sports, all I know is football and football only, man. I tried basketball, I figured that wasn't for me.
Do you have a nickname that folks like to use or like to call you?
People call me J Mike, short for Jamaica, so it's just J Mike.
In today's college football world, NIL and the transfer portal are huge parts of it. How do you feel about those changes, and how have you seen it impact college football? It can be positive or negative.
I say it's a positive thing, for players to get compensated for all the hard work that they put in, from spring to summer to fall. I just feel like it's really a really good thing.
Having gone through the recruiting process a couple times from high school, in the portal, etc., what were you able to learn? From your previous experiences that helped you this most recent time when you chose UAB.
It's just believing in, trusting in the process. Coming from a D2 school to a D1 school, it's just a new change, new environment, I'd say, but it's been good.
What led you to choose UAB to further your academic and athletic career?
What led me to choose UAB is I've always wanted to be a Blazer coming out of high school. I was getting recruited by UAB, but unfortunately, COVID happened and, kind of got lost in, the recruiting process. But, it's just a blessing, man, to finally get the opportunity to be a Blazer, man. Just couldn't, yeah, I couldn't imagine it.
At Miles College, you wore number 2, and at UAB, you're going to wear number 15. Does the number 15 have any significance for you?
Nah, number 15 doesn't have any significance for me. It was just a number that I've earned, putting in a lot of hard work. So, nah, it doesn't.
What advice would you give an aspiring high school player about the recruiting process?
I would tell them, just to trust the process. It could be hard, coming from high school kid wanting to get a D1, scholarship or offer, So I just tell them just to trust the process and believe, and go somewhere where your scheme best fits or your play style best fits for the program.
Is there a defensive end or edge that you like to model your game after, or someone you like to watch highlights of at the NFL level?
Of course, being Max Crosby being at my number one spot, just his motor and his relentlessness to get to the quarterback, the stuff runs, being able to pass rush at an elite level, I'm definitely watching Max Crosby.
If you could pick any two defensive linemen or edge rushers to kind of train with, learn from, watch film with, etc., who would you pick and why?
For my number one spot, I definitely would pick Max Crosby, just because, his high motor and everything. And then my number two guy, I definitely would pick Aaron Donald.
When you're studying film and watching other defensive ends, which things are you trying to pay the most attention to?
Trying to pay attention to see how fast can they get off the ball. I pride myself on beating the tackle to the point of attack. So, I pride myself on that. So when I watch other players, I like to watch how fast do they get off the ball.
When you're studying film and watching the offense, and probably in particular the offensive lineman, what things are you looking for there?
I try to check for key tendencies. Like for me, I'm gonna just say I'm gonna use the offensive tackle for example. So when I line up and I'm looking at across from me this offensive tackle, I'm looking at how far is his leg back, how far is his hands, just little key things. And I like to say I look at his eyes because his eyes will tell you like if he either going to block you or he's either going away from you. So those are the two main things that I pay attention to.
What do you feel your main strength is as an edge rusher?
My main script as an edge rush, I feel, is my speed. I pride myself on getting off the ball, getting off the ball, getting off the ball. So I really just say my speed.
What's an area of your game that you've worked the most on this off season?
This offseason, I worked on flipping my hips at the point of attack. Being able to bend the corner as an edge rusher. I feel like you have to be able to bend the edge as an edge rusher. So I say just flipping my hips and working on my footwork.
How would you say your preparation and what you do on a weekly basis is different on a game week versus a week where you don't have a game, a bye week?
Okay, for a game week, I say it's the intensity. The film study, the training part. Being able to be mentally stable to learn that you can't go out here and mess up, even though you're gonna have plays when you mess up, but you just gotta be mentally prepared for that. And then I say for a bye week, I say the recovery process, so getting ready for the next week that is coming up.
If you had to tell an aspiring high school player what the hardest part of playing college football is, what would that be?
I would tell them, man, the training is very different from high school. It's way faster, and being able to come in and learn things. I say that would be the hardest thing for a high school kid coming into college.
As we mentioned in the intro, Steve Irvine from the Birmingham Banner tabbed you as his 2025 defensive breakout player for the UAB Blazers. But we wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out some of your teammates. Who are some guys that folks need to know about and look out for from UAB here in 2025?
I say the whole team as a unit. The hard work that we put in. A lot the dedication that the players have shown that I've seen. I say the whole team as a unit. I just say people need to look out for UAB Blazers this upcoming fall.
If someone's not seen you play a game, what one game would you recommend for them to watch?
Well, one game I would recommend them to watch is the SIAC Championship 2024. Miles versus Clark Atlanta. I feel like if you haven't seen my game before, that game really shows you who I am.
If you could replay one game, and it can be a high school game or a college game, which game would you replay and why would you replay it?
I say my high school, my senior year, man. First round playoffs. We lost to a team called Wetumpka by 1 point, man. So I definitely say that game. That hurt. That hurt.
What opposing offensive player was the toughest for you to go against and why? And it can be someone from your own team that you go against in practice.
I say it was my old buddy from my old institution at Miles College. I say Christian Twine. When I first got there, he was a starter since he was a freshman. And, coming in, going against him every day at practice, it was tough. He really showed me that I had to work. So I definitely say Christian Twine.
What are your goals for 2025, both team goals and personal goals?
The team goals is to change the narrative. Coming in, hearing things about UAB being coming from a losing season. I just want to be able to help change the narrative, be a winning season this year. And some goals that I would have is I want to come in and break the single game sack record for UAB and the most career. I mean, not the career, but season sacks for UAB. So I say those two.
Is there a particular routine that you have on game days, whether it be a pregame meal you always have to have, or a song or artist that you always have to listen to before games?
My pregame ritual is I have to have a bowl of fruit. I don't know what it is about it, but I just have to have a bowl of fruit. I feel it gives me more energy. It clears my mind. Just having a bowl of fruit and some water. I have to have that before every game.
What's your favorite fruit?
I like to eat pineapples and strawberries, sometimes blueberries too.
When you're not playing or preparing for football, what do you like to do in your free time? Do you have any hobbies or passions?
One thing I like to do is I like to cook. I'm a very good cook. It's like one of my hidden talents, you could say. Being able to cook. Just it's one thing I really pride myself on trying to do or get better at.
What do you have a favorite meal you like to cook?
Yes, I like to cook. Sometimes I like to cook steak, but if I feel like I cook steak too much, I resort to, spaghetti or Alfredo.
Are you excited to see yourself in the college football video game that just came out?
Very excited, man. Being me playing like football sports games since I was like younger, man. It's a blessing to finally see yourself in the video game that you've been playing for so many years. It's just truly an amazing feeling.
Have you had a chance to play the new game yet? I think it just came out last week, I guess.
Yeah, I had a chance to play. The first thing I had to do was play with myself. Play with UAB. What I'm saying, I had to beat Memphis.
Are you an Xbox guy or a PlayStation guy?
I say I started on Xbox, but I gradually, converted to PlayStation. So I have a P5 now, though. But yeah.
What do you think about your overall rating in the new game? You think that's fair, or what do you think it should be?
I definitely think it's fair, me coming from a D2 school, coming to a D1 school, and then being a 71 overall. I definitely think it's fair, but trust and believe, as the season go on, they update the overalls. I'm definitely trying to get up to like the mid 80s, like a 85 or 88, high 80s.
What's your favorite defensive play call in the game?
I like to run double mug. I was running double mug in NCAA 25. That's been one of my favorite defenses since the game came back. So I say double mug.
What you talk about cooking? What's your favorite meal to eat?
My favorite meal to eat, besides me not cooking, I like to eat some wings, some hot wings. That's one of my favorite meals too. As growing up eating hot wings all day, I say that.
So normal hot, your favorite sauce?
I say the Louisiana hot sauce. That's my favorite.
Ranch or blue cheese?
I gotta go ranch. Gotta go ranch.
Do you have you found a favorite place to eat there around town and you near UAB?
Yes, it's a spot called Crazy Wings where I get the same thing. The people know me up there that every time I walk in, they be like, "We already know what you want. Hot, hot lemon pepper with plain fries."
So crazy wings. If you're listening to this, you need to hook Jamichael up with an NIL deal, man. Like some free advertising.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about special talent that you have. Cooking. Is there a special or a little known talent that maybe a teammate has that you want to share?
I know some of my teammates, they have some of the same aspiration I have in being able to cook. We talk about food all day in the locker room, being and saying like what we're going to make tonight or what we're going to make tomorrow. It's just different things we talk about with food.
If you could sit down and have a conversation with any three people of your choosing, they can be dead or alive. Who would you choose and why?
I would definitely choose both of my grannies. They unfortunately passed away. Being able to get a chance to talk to both of them again, I definitely would have to choose those two. And I would choose Max Crosby just to learn the game of football at a level that he's at that I'm trying to reach. So I definitely say those three.
Do you have any like NIL deals currently, like where folks could maybe support you, buy some Jamichael Rogers gear or anything?
Not right now, but trust me, it's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Awesome. You have to let us know so we can make sure to promote it.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Yes, sir.
Couple of fun questions, and we'll get you out of here. If you were to describe your playing style using a movie title, what would it be?
I would definitely say the Flash. I pride myself on being able to be fast. Working on my speed, my get off. So I definitely say the Flash.
Would you rather have a game-winning run stuff on fourth and goal as time expires, or a five-sack performance in a game?
I definitely say the run stuff. Being able to stop someone on the goal line for game. Even though 5 sacks is good, but I'd rather have the goal line stuff. I'd rather have that.
If you had to pick any letter in the alphabet to win a fight against all the other letters, which letter are you going to pick and why are you going to pick it?
I would definitely say J, just because this is the first letter of my name, Jamichael. So I definitely say J.
All right, last question. Coach Dilfer comes in and says, "No need for pads today, boys. Grab your running shoes. We're doing laps." What position group does your mind immediately go to that caused it?
I would definitely say the DBs, just because we had to do some punishment for them Friday, so I'd definitely say the DBs.
Man, like I know, like the folks that listen to us all the time, like tired of hearing me say this, but like it's
Mhm.
always the DBs. Like everybody, like 99.9% of the time when we ask this question, that's definitely the answer we get. And as I've said many times, we've interviewed DBs and even they've said the DBs. So I don't know what it is
Mm.
about the DBs, man, but they're the ones. They seem to definitely be the biggest cause of having to run laps.
hmm You know. But I love them though. Those my guys. I built a brotherhood with them. Those my guys. I'm going to war with them.
Well, Jamichael, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend with us and allow our listeners to get to know you a little bit more.
No, I appreciate the opportunity, man. Blessings like this don't come to often for me. Being able to say this is my first interview that I've ever done. I just want to say I truly appreciate you, and I'm glad you had me on.
But hopefully it's not your last, and hopefully next April we hear your name called in the NFL draft, and then lots of people are going to be wanting to interview you.
Yeah, that's the plan. Being able to say that I've been drafted. That's one of my main goals as I'm trying to focus on my football career right now. So I'm praying. I'm praying.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Jamichael, and we're excited to see
Thank
you
you.
and the UA Blazers here in the 2025 season.
I thank you, man. Appreciate it.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening in podcast form, please rate and review on Amazon Music, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Thank you all for your support. And until the next time, we are the G5 High.